Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm very excited to start our session today. Today is a very special day for me, and I'm very thankful for this special day to all of you because today, last year, right now, I was on top of Everest. And the reason I was climbing Everest was all of you. So it is the fact that I get to celebrate by one of the most important days of my life with all of you that just means so much to me. Like, this is the best way of celebrating it. And so I'm very thankful for that. So with no further ado, I want to introduce my amazing friend, Bethany. We've been friends. We talked a lot about mountains together. She's also a professor at university. She's been in Nepal before. She hiked mountain in Nepal. She brought her students to Nepal to visit Nepal. So I'm very happy and excited for this session today. She's going to be talking to us about time management. So I'm recording this session. This is part of the series that I've been emailing you. So I think I've already sent you 10 other videos, more than even 10 videos of all the sessions that we had so far, different topics from financial literacy, self-confidence, class management, how to be a better teacher, introduction to being a good teacher. So you received all these videos. If you haven't received any of these videos that I'm telling you, please email me and let me know, and then I can share the videos with you so you can share it with your students. We have a lot of teachers and principals here on this call. So please go ahead and share all these videos with all the other teachers you have. But with no further ado, I want to start our session. Thank you for being here. And please type in the chat if you have any questions during the sessions. I'm here to moderate the session. Thank you, Bethany, for being here.
Thank you, Sarah, for having me. And is it coming across okay? You can hear me fine? Wonderful. Well, I am so thrilled to be here. This is amazing. And I have known Sarah, I think, since 2017 and been following her journey with all that she does in the mountains and for women around the world. So, a little bit about myself. I have been a college professor for 8 years. I've taught at Paul Smith's College and Clarkson University, and I teach classes like environmental history, social justice. I also teach recreation classes. I also teach women empowerment classes. And I went to Nepal my first time in 2014, and that was with my grad program, actually, when I was a master's student. And we started in Kathmandu, and then we went out to Pokhara and we worked with the Three Sisters, empowering Nepali girls organization out there. And that's when I really saw that that was the direction I wanted to take in life, was focusing on social justice issues and especially around gender equality around the world. So we also spent some time in the Chitwan. So that was neat hearing you guys talk about that. What a beautiful place. And got to see a rhino and some of the wildlife down there. I was a conservation student and also a community development student. So it was such a magical experience. Went up into the Annapurna Sanctuary Conservation Area, went up Poon Hill. And then when I was a professor at Paul Smith's, I started a project of collecting climate stories around the world and went back to Nepal with 13 students in 2018. And we worked with Kathmandu National College right in Kathmandu. And a whole bunch of us, 13 of my students and then 14 of their students, went out into the Annapurna area as well and started collecting some stories around climate change in Nepal. So I'm a writer, I'm an athlete, I'm an educator. I do a lot of things. So when Sarah was looking for some lecturers to come in and talk about topics, I looked at time management because that is how I organize my life. I've also taught project management on at university. So there, for me, I have been organizing my time ever since high school. And I was, you know, a two-sport athlete. I was class president. I was part of nature club. I was doing a lot of what I'm doing today, but on a smaller level. And one of the first things that I saw as a tool to really help me do that was to always keep an agenda on me. And I still have that practice today. I will always get a planner. I will always have, no matter how advanced we get with technology and, you know, phones and all that, I will still always have something I can hold in my hands, a pencil, you know, something that I can just write stuff down on. So, Sarah, I do like the PowerPoint that you have for this class. I pulled it up on mine too. I don't know if I can screen share or if you need to screen share that PowerPoint, but I was just going to go through that for this hour.
I've already powered to share.
Oh, say that again.
You already have to share.
I can screen share.
If you want, if it is easier.
Yes, maybe if you can share it, that would be great. Yes, and if there's any questions, please just put them right in the chat.
Maybe we can start as I'm about to open the file, everybody can share why time management is important for you. Why do you think you need to learn time management?
Yes, that would be great. And since there's quite a few participants, if you can just put that into the chat, your name, who you are, and why this course is important to you, that would be great.
To organize our life in a better way.
Thank you.
The slide.
Here we come. Yep. Yep.
So just tell change the slide.
All right. Sarah, are we all set? And I'll just tell you to go from slide to slide. So you can start on the second slide. This is a time management class, and I'm going to have the chat open too to look for questions and just see what your input is. And I'm seeing a lot of thoughts around to help manage our life with more ease. I think that's part of it because we are always going to have a lot to do. Life is full of so many different columns, whether that be work, family, you know, leisure, taking time for mental health. So it's how to organize this in a more really way that it's efficient. It's a time efficient way. So Right off the definition, time management is the process of organizing and planning how to divide your time between different activities. Get it right, and you'll end up working smarter, not harder, to get more done in less time, even when time is tight and pressures are high. The highest achievers manage their time exceptionally well. There's a lot I like about this slide because I do really agree with that. When you notice someone, whether it's at university or in an organization, and you just look at them and you're like, wow, how are they able to do all that they do? They most likely are someone who manages their time very well. We all have 24 hours a day to work with. However, some of us are better at managing those 24 hours than others. And that can be cutting out distractions. That can be saying no to certain projects that might not go anywhere or aren't a good fit for you. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later with prioritizing what to say yes to, what to say no to, what to let go of. And I'm going to do some activities with you throughout this so that you can start that process. And Sarah, does everyone probably have a notebook and a pen right now? Okay. So we'll go to the next slide. And this is just an image of how hectic and chaotic life can be, of, you know, having the cooking, the cleaning, the being a university student, maybe being a parent, maybe being a child that's helping out with a family member, taking care of the pet, you know, all these things, trying to stay fit, trying to stay active. The world can move at a very fast pace. Next slide. Thanks, Sarah. So time management, what we're going to first start with, and I'd like everyone to get a notebook, or if you're taking notes on your computer, that's fine too. Open a Word doc. I love working with Word docs. I love working with Excel sheets too. And defining goals is so critical in time management, because if we don't define goals, then what are we working towards? Like, what are we putting our time towards? Really, everything can be defined as a goal, even if it's just like, oh, well, I have to clean the house today. And I am not someone who really enjoys cleaning, but if I make it into a goal, then I can at least check it off my list and feel a little satisfaction that I accomplished that. So what I'm going to have you do right off the bat, I want you to define 2 long-term goals. And I'm going to write this down too. So 2 long-term goals. Long-term is 6 months to a year out. I just like to frame it that way. Everyone's going to have a little different time on that. But, and then short-term goals, I see like our day-to-day goals, but also up to 6 months. So I want you all to define 2 long-term goals you have right now in your life. And perhaps that's getting a degree. It might be applying for a new job. And then 2 short-term goals you have right now in life. And I'm just going to add that to the chat too. And Sarah, let me know if any questions are coming up in the chat. And I want to encourage you to, because this is a practice that has a lot of scientific research behind it. If you would like to share one of your goals with the group, you actually have a higher chance of achieving that goal. Once we tell someone that we're working towards something, You know, for example, when Sarah said, well, I want to be the first Iranian American woman to climb all 7 summits, she, by saying that goal and sharing it with others, became more likely to achieve that goal. Because what happens is when community members know about our goal, we feel more accountable towards it. It's not just something we're holding in us of like, maybe I'm going to do this, maybe I'm not going to do this. We start telling people. So for example, one of my long-term goals is I'm writing a book. And this book, I am almost done with the writing process. The editing process is going to begin, and then, you know, some of the rewriting. So that is one of my, it's in between a long-term and a short-term goal. So that's one that I'm sharing with you all as an audience, because I'm trying to really hold myself accountable to achieving that goal. Wonderful. So also too, so, you know, keep sharing. I encourage you to share. I'm going to keep going through this slide. And also with goals, the more specific we can be, the more measurable, attainable, specific we can be, the more likely we're able to achieve that goal too, because we see it either as a number or by a certain day. And what I do for that with writing, I'll make a goal of I'm going to write 2 pages today. You know, instead of just saying I'm going to write today, I'm going to write 2 pages. And that 2 pages holds me more accountable to writing more than just saying, oh, well, I wrote a sentence. So on your piece of paper, I also like to put the date. And I think that's very important, so that when I go back through my journal or my Excel sheet or whatever you're keeping track on, I get to see when I made these goals. Because say if I look back on this in a month or 2 from now, I can be like, oh, well, I achieved that or I didn't. So what's important here is that we examine and revise our lifetime goals on a monthly basis. And I really like to do this around the end of the month and the start of a new month. It feels very fresh to me. It feels natural. I like to be in tune with nature too, and the passing of a month, the beginning of a new month. It's a great time to flip back through and see where you're at. It's also nice to check in on those goals on a daily basis if you're able to. So I like to journal, but I'm a writer. I understand that I like to write more, a lot more than probably the average person. So you just find a system that works for you. It might be an app, it might be an Excel sheet, it might just be also a conversation, you know, like finding, I call them accountability buddies. So someone in your life that you're going to check in on, check in with, and you're going to share your long-term and your short-term goals. This might be a friend, this might be a partner, this might be a parent, it might be your child, of like, hey, this is what I'm working on, and I'm going to check in with you about this either weekly or monthly. You set the pace at which you're going to work. So also have confidence in yourself and in your judgment of priorities, and stick to them no matter what. So this is important. And this is another reason why it's important to say our goals to one another, because it improves our confidence in them. Because sometimes we can be our toughest critic, and we can also be the one that holds us back the most. And so find those champions in your life that are going to hold you up and help you reach those goals. Push yourself to be persistent, especially when you know you are doing well. Yes, be persistent. And don't regret your failures, and instead try to learn from your mistakes. I have, through learning project management, I've had more projects that have not gotten off the ground than ones who have gone on to be very successful. But I'll tell you one thing. My projects that have become so successful, and the big projects of my life, they have been built by all those other little projects that didn't go anywhere, or in my mind didn't go anywhere, but really they were giving me the skill, they were giving me the tools, they were giving me the information I needed. Actually, that error, that trial and error of why this one didn't work, it helped me go on to the next one and make that one successful. And projects are so finicky. It's a time, it's a place, it's an audience. It's sometimes not having the right time or place or audience, and then just learning to adapt through that. So another piece of advice I can just give right now is be flexible. Be flexible with your goals and let them adapt over time too. It doesn't mean you're letting go of that goal. It could just mean that, oh, I see this in a different way, and this is actually what I was trying to say in the beginning, or this is actually where I can go and be successful. I don't know how many of you are business people or are trying to start a business, but this is so important with business development too, of possibly shifting your mission just a little bit to hit that wider audience. Next slide, Sarah. So this is a great chart, and I encourage everyone to look at this and look at it in depth and try to think of something in your life. So we're going to try to start prioritizing goals. So on the next writing activity, so on our piece of paper, we already have our 2 long-term goals and our 2 short-term goals. Now I want you to write out a list of all the things you have to do in your life. Okay. So write a list of all the things you have to do. And that can include, well, I have to go get the groceries. I have to go work out. I have to go do the laundry. I have to go check on my mom. I have to call my sister. So just start. I'm going to time us for about 2 minutes. For 2 minutes, just write out a list of all the things you can think of. Walk the dog. I have my little dog here. I have to walk him after this.
How many points?
As many as you can do in the next 2 minutes. I would try to get at least 10. Try to aim for 10. About 1 more minute. All right, you can keep adding to the list at any point. We're going to go over the priority matrix. So looking at your list, the priority matrix helps us sort out what is the most urgent task versus what is the one that can wait. Because realistically, we can't do everything all at once. Another part of what makes some people so good at time management is that they're able to let go of tasks, or better yet, they're able to delegate tasks. So delegate means that I see something on my list and I'm going to assign that to someone else. And in the workplace, That can look like a colleague of, oh, wow, they actually have the expertise. They might have more knowledge to even do that. So when you're delegating to someone, you are trying to look for someone who's competent to complete that task so that you can just give it to them and it gets done. So, and I love seeing all your goals come in. This is great. It gives me motivation to keep giving all the tips I can. So when we have the highest importance in our life and also the most urgency, that is our first to do. So if you look at your list, which ones have to, in your opinion, get done first because they are the most important? And so urgency means it has to get done in a timely manner. So an example I'll use for that is, say you have a bill to pay and it's due tomorrow. That's very urgent to get that done because the deadline is coming up. And that could look like a student getting a paper written, or me as a writer hitting a deadline for my editor. It's urgent that I get it done because the deadline's coming up. But it's also a high importance to me because, you know, I want to pay this bill so that I can keep living where I live, or I can get my book written. So on your piece of paper, star the task that you feel is of the highest importance and the most urgent. And if you have a few of them, star whichever ones you think are that. Star the most important. I like to use stars to symbolize that on my pieces of paper. Everyone might have a different symbol, but that's what I like to do for the do first star. Some people too, and we might have someone in the participants who is like this, but some people really like to color code their agendas, which if you have some different colored pens, you can do that too. Highlighters are great too, highlighting what needs to get done first. So next we're going to do the do next. So we've gone over the do first. That is the one, high importance, high urgency. The do next is high importance, so it means a lot to you to get it done, but it's a lower urgency. So maybe you have a week to accomplish this. You're not up against such a heavy deadline. It could be put to the next day or the following day, but it's still very important to you because maybe that's your dream job. Maybe it's the application for your dream job and it's not due for the next week or two, but you know that you have to get it done. These I like to circle. So again, everyone come up with what makes the most sense for you. For the do next, I like to circle those items. I also like to put a date next to them by when I need to get them done by. So again, the more specific you can be with each goal, and also whenever you can use a date, do it. It's so important to just keep in mind that timeline. Another thing people with project management or time management are very good at, creating timelines. And that's why when I get agendas, and the ones that I hold in hands, and, you know, I can usually get these at a bookstore. I like to have the monthly planner. So like one page where you can see the whole month laid out. I like that. I don't know how well this shows up. But then I also like the days being broken out where I can add in my own things. So that's the do next. The do later. Okay, the do later. This is of low importance to you, and it's high urgency. Okay, so this one, the do later, I usually put an X by, okay? X. And these, maybe you're doing this for someone else. All right. So it's a low importance to you personally in your own life, but maybe you're helping out someone else. And this is something that you said you were going to do and you want to stick to your word on it. So it's still a high urgency because you said you were going to follow through on something. So this is where if you can see, the or delegate sign is next to it. And this is what I really like about this one is the delegate, because it's a low importance to you, that probably means that it just doesn't align with your passions as much or your expertise. All right. So when I see tasks like this pop up, it's pretty easy for me to see, oh, this is a better fit for someone else. This comes up a lot in the school setting for me when I'm teaching. If there's, for example, a training that I have to make sure my employees get, but maybe I'm not the greatest fit for, I'm going to find someone to delegate this to, because I want to give my employees the best quality product. And sometimes I'm not the one to deliver that. So these do later or delegate, it's very important to even just ask yourself honestly, if this is a low importance to you, are you really the best person to deliver it? So that's how I define these. These might be the best actions to delegate to someone else because they don't really align with what you're an expert in. So the last one, I like to put a line through. And maybe there's something on your sheet of even like all these to-dos that you had that you can simply X out and be like, no, I don't need to do this anymore. So put a line through anything that might fall into that category. Now, I will say these are less rare. These are more rare. I meant to say, because usually when we have a to-do list, these are items that we have to do. We either have to schedule or we have to delegate or we have to knock off the list. The don't do's seem to, in my life, they seem to acquire over time. And it might just be a project that's not getting off the ground. It might be a partnership that's not getting off the ground because there's a conflict of interest or it's not the fit for you. Maybe it's even like a college program that you entered in and you realize that you're in the wrong major, okay? Because it's a low importance to you. It's also... Oh, what's that? I'm just going to keep going, but if there's a question, just put it right in the chat and Sarah and I will look for that. So I've had this happen to me recently of I entered into a project. I thought it was a higher importance to me. And it turned out it wasn't, and that I wasn't a great fit for this project. So I finished out my contract with the project and I offered that I didn't want to renew my contract. So sometimes it can just look like that, of walking away from a project, though I do encourage you to do it, either finish the contract, offer 2 weeks. There are things that we do leave, all right, that we resign from, that we move on from, so that we can go back to doing things that are of a higher importance to us. Okay, Sarah, let's go to the next one. I see a lot of people are doing some college work. That's great. And no worries about the audio. That's fine. That's fine. All right. So the 4 D's of time management. So the categories are do, defer, delegate, delete. All right. So this falls into the matrix as well that we just talked about. All right. So on our list, when we have a star next to the most important, that is what we do. We have to work on those tasks and get them done. So something that I like, and I read a book on this, and it was a really powerful book for me when I read it about time management. And the author gave advice of when you have your list in front of you, pick something that you can do right away. And it might only take a few minutes and you're going to get it done. And it might be the phone call that you've been putting off to make or the appointment you've been putting off to schedule. Get it done and put a check by that. And that will give you momentum going into the next task and the next task. But she always encouraged, pick something at the very beginning of the day that you can just get up and do, and it starts your day that way. There's another book that gives the advice of as soon as you get up, make your bed. And it's a very simple task, but it is starting your day in a productive way of doing things, of completing things, of organizing things. The second one is defer. And, we talked about this a little bit in the prior slide of temporary pausing on something that doesn't need to be handled right away. That was the circle column of do next, because maybe you still have a week or two to complete this. Okay. The third one, delegate. And we talked about that too, falling in that box of reassigning an essential task to someone else. And this is how I do it. You weigh the task against your own expertise versus those that can deliver on the same thing or could deliver better on that. Because again, when I deliver to my students, I want them to get the best product possible. And if I were to, for example, teach them a class about climbing Mount Everest, even though I'm a mountain climber, I've never climbed Mount Everest. So I would want to bring in someone who has and who can actually talk about being in base camp and camp 1 and 2 and all the way up to the summit. So ask yourself and take a step back too, because sometimes we have to do that and to recognize that we're not an expert in everything. So look around your network and ask yourself who you could find to help delegate some task, because that is something where we can get overweighted with, is when we just say yes to everything. We try to take on everything. And you know what? We might not be the best fit for that. And it's only going to drain us of our own energy. So that's another thing with time management. I think when you do start to do these 4 Ds of time management, of doing or delaying or delegating or completely dropping, you are opening up your schedule more to the things that you're really, really good at. And that's just going to shine through with whatever you're doing. So I'm going to wrap up this slide real quick. The last one here is delete. Just drop it. If it doesn't need to be done, and if it doesn't need to be done by you, let it go. Something to think about in the future is when someone is asking you to do something, run through these 4 Ds right away. Is this something you want to do? Or is this something that you want to delegate? Or is this something that you think you're just going to drop? If you can recognize that early on, just say no. I don't either have the time or I don't have the expertise to do this. Or it's not a good fit for me. Be honest. Don't be pressured into that I have to say yes to everything. Next slide, Sarah. So a few tips here. Remind yourself there is always enough time for the important things. And that's true. All right. Sometimes, and I know this might more prevalent in the US because we're a very time-oriented society of just scheduling things, over scheduling things. You'll find a lot of people in the US who just use the excuse of, well, I don't have the time, I'm too busy. And it becomes a part of the culture where really, if you're practicing the 4Ds and you're practicing the matrix, there is enough time for the important things. So that's where you have to ask yourself, what are the important things in your life? Is that family? Is that education? Is that friends? Is that your job? And start prioritizing. Try using waiting time to review notes or do practice problems. Learn and practice specific reading strategies. They will help you comprehend, study, and remember better. So if you are in a program where you are a student, just putting aside time to work on your studies, that's so important. And keep, this is like one of my favorite ones, keep paper or a calendar with you to jot down the things you have to do. I do this all the time. It's always with me. And it's one of the first things that I'm opening in the morning. I'm opening my agenda. I'm opening my calendar. I'm taking it with me everywhere I go. I love pencils and pens, pads of paper. Like I said, no matter how tech crazy the world gets, I will always have my paper and pen. Put up reminders in your home or office about your goals. This is so important. So remember, all of time management, the reason that we're trying to do it, the reason we're trying to get better at it is so that we can achieve our goals that are so important to us. So what I like to do in my own home is I set up little corners of my house that have inspiration, that have reminders of what I'm working towards. So for me, being a writer, it could be a book, a bookshelf of authors that inspire me. And so when I look at those books, I know that I want to have my book published someday. It could be a picture of a mountain that I want to climb. It could be a saying or a quote on my refrigerator or somewhere in my bathroom. It's also setting up peace in your house too, because we can't be going all the time. And if you are, and if you do, and I'm sure everyone can relate to a time in your life where you went too hard and it impacted either your social life or your physical life or your mental health. And we just don't want to create those systems. Those are unsustainable systems, and they really break us down as humans. We need time to rest. We need time to sleep. We need time to not think about any of our goals, actually, and just to simply like lay back, play with your dog or play with your children, or just enjoy being alive, and having that gratitude of heart. Next slide, Sarah. These are some tips for time management. I encourage you to write down the ones that you identify with the most. Okay. These are 10 tips. And for, we all have different learning styles and personality styles and communication styles. So pick out the ones that you think are going to work the best for you. And if you can pick out 3 to 4 that work the best for you, this will help you implement everything else very well. Okay. It would be a lot to just simply do all 10 tips. For me, I'm going to read through them first, and then I'm going to identify the ones that work best for me as a person and why. So, checklist, once work done. So like, check. I really like that one. Prioritize the urgent, be on time, avoid distraction, schedule accordingly, remember the deadline, take breaks, never panic, give your best, note down the work. Okay, so those are 10 tips. Of those 10 tips, I I want to start with give your best. So for me as a person and being an athlete, you know, whenever I step down the field or court, I played soccer and basketball, and now I mountain climb. Whatever I step into, I always want to give my best. So if I start the day with this principle, it also helps me say no to things that are just going to take more of my time. And then when I'm so spread between, say, 5 things instead of 3 things, I'm not really giving my best anymore. I'm just giving it a good effort. All right. So I'm going to always try to do my best, give my best. I am a checklist person. So I'm going to go with number 1. You know, it's the checklist. Once work is done, that really helps me. I love crossing stuff off. I love starring it. I love checking it. So that really helps me. And then I'm going to take breaks for me. For me as a person, I really like to go hour to hour. I like to work in breaks into my day, whether that's like taking my dog to the park, walking by the river, maybe working on my garden a little bit, or reading. Writing for me, like journaling is sometimes a break. Lunch, food. So really taking time to just eat. I think this is a really good example because when we are very busy and on deadlines, we can just kind of mindlessly maybe eat lunch while we're working on our computer. But I encourage you, whenever you have a meal or tea, step away from what you're doing and just enjoy that moment. So from this slide, take 3 to 4 tips and really try to focus on them. Next one, Sarah. And I think we're very close to the end here. Yes. So time management, a few things to really ask yourself. I'm going to drop right to the bottom on this is something I haven't talked about yet is the act of procrastinating. And you can simply raise your hand if you've done this before. And for me, I certainly have. I have procrastinated. I've pushed things off. That ask yourself why you're doing that. Are you afraid of not succeeding? Are you afraid of failing? Are you overwhelmed as to where to start? Is it something you've never done before? Are you asking for help? Ask why you're procrastinating. This is a habit that can become very detrimental to time management. And really, a lot of times it comes from a fear of just getting started. So that's why I like going back to the checklist, getting one thing done right off the start. It's also chunking things out. If we have a really big project, and I'm going to just use my book again, the idea of writing a book, it's a big thing. It's a lot of pages. I can't think about getting all the way to the end product. I just have to think about writing that first chapter. So chunk down your projects because sometimes just like the enormity of it overwhelms us. So a few other tips here. Maintain and develop a list of specific things to be done each day. Set your priorities. Evaluate your progress here. So that's another reason I really like notebooks. I like being able to check things off. I can also notice patterns with myself of what gets carried over week to week. And it's usually the same task that I'm just avoiding or procrastinating on. So for myself, lots of times when I'm avoiding something, it's simply because I don't like doing it. So I don't like cleaning. I avoid cleaning. It gets pushed over to the next week and the next week. And that's just a small example, but lots of times that's another root of procrastination. We simply don't like doing it. It's a low urgency. Well, it could be a higher urgency, but it just doesn't, we have a lower passion to do it. Look ahead in your month and try to anticipate what is going to happen so you can better schedule your time. This is huge. as an academic in the academic calendar, and if you're a student in the academic calendar or a professor in it, you can certainly relate to this of, oh my goodness, there's so much downtime on a break when we're not in school. And then it seems like everything peaks at the end of the semester and you have 4 classes and papers to write for each of them. And all of a sudden you have so much to do when just a month ago you had so much time to work on things. So try to anticipate how you can even just schedule certain things away from that. Whether it's like a personal thing or a family thing or a trip that you don't need to take during that time, like try to take it during one of the lower periods of activity. Be sure to set deadlines for yourself whenever possible. Just like I said before, write that date next to that goal and hold yourself accountable. With the holding yourself accountable, something I love to do and I really encourage others to do is reward yourself when you have completed something. All right. When you have gotten that master's, or you have gotten through the semester, or you have written that book, or you have climbed Everest, give yourself something in reward for that. And it can be as simple as maybe like a small purchase, like a shirt or a pair of shoes, or something to put around your house. And I think it's so important because when I've done this in life and I've rewarded myself and I see my rewards, it motivates me to keep going in that direction. It's a positive feeling. It's satisfying. It's something to celebrate. So it could be as simple too as going out and having a meal with a friend or a family member. Next slide. Yes, and this is our last slide before we get to the sources. So this is another thing that should help with avoiding procrastination is start with the most difficult parts of the project. All right. And if you're really having trouble starting with the most difficult parts, because they are the most challenging parts, reach out to someone right away. If you need advice, if you need someone to help you with that part just to get started, don't put it to the side, put it to the side. I am very guilty of this. Technology is not my strong suit. So lots of times if I get held back with a technology question, I will just keep putting the task aside when it's really as simple as reaching out to someone who knows the technology, who can talk me through it and get me past that step. So also catch yourself when you are involved in unproductive projects, and stop them as soon as you can. This is a skill that has taken me some time to learn, but I am so much better at it now of recognizing, wow, this isn't the right fit for me. And I need to excuse myself from this project and do it politely and courteously and always give thanks to that person for giving you the opportunity. But just acknowledge that sometimes in life, we're not the fit for that project. Really try to concentrate on one thing at a time. Again, try to be really strong at 3 things instead of 5 or 6, and you'll notice the difference. And this is a big one, and I'm so glad we're ending on this. Ask for advice when needed. I know I struggle sometimes asking for help or asking for advice, but I also know too, I have been much more successful in life by looking up to others in my field who are stronger at what they do than me and being mentored by them and getting advice from them. So that's what we have on our PowerPoint. And I want to be mindful of the time again, because it's a time management class. And I want to see if there's any questions. And Sarah, I'm going to also pass it back to you to see how you want to wrap up the class. It's been so great being here, and I love seeing all your goals come in. It's really inspiring.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So everyone, I'm recording this. I'm going to be posting this. If anyone has any questions regarding the topics that we discussed today or throughout the week, as you're practicing everything that we discussed and you have a question, you can always reply back to the email and you can say, well, this part of time management I'm good at, I've done it. This other part of time management I need to practice more or learn more. So maybe if you send me questions, then we can continue on this conversation, okay? And any other conversations or any other topics that this is the problem you're dealing with in your life, and this is something you want to educate yourself, you want to educate people around you, feel free to add topics. I want these classes to be collaborative and dynamic so that you are always contributing to the new topics so that we can always growing, learning. And as she was mentioning at the very beginning, it is very essential to have an accountability partner, someone, a friend, another teacher, another person who can, maybe your sibling even, who can help you keep you stay on task, to write your schedule, to focus on your goals, to write your goals. So this is a journey. It doesn't happen overnight. We don't become the best person in managing time overnight. It is like you don't climb one little mountain and you say, okay, now I'm ready for Everest, right? You have to keep training and keep climbing and keep climbing, right? And time management is exactly the same thing. All the leadership skills are the same thing. So keep at it. Don't give up. Keep practicing, keep practicing, keep practicing. And always know that me and all the instructors that I invite as the guest speaker, they are there to support you. So you can email me, and then all the questions that you have, I can forward them to Bethany so she can answer all your questions. Or maybe the next time she's here, she can answer your questions. All right. So with that, I want to ask those of you who have camera on your phone or laptop to turn them on so we can take a group picture together, if that's okay with everyone, and then I'll send you the group picture. So if you have a camera, turn that on and put that beautiful smile on, and then let's take this picture. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna be sending you this picture. I'm gonna stop